My father called me a disgrace for working as a restaurant server, and he said it in front of everyone at my brother's promotion party. The worst part? The rest of my family looked at me like I was nothing. But then, something happened that changed everything. A truth about me came out, one they never saw coming. Suddenly, the same people who judged me were begging for forgiveness. But I had just one thing to say before I walked away. So, tell me, was I wrong for cutting off my entire family? Hello everyone, my name is Danielle. I'm 32 years old and own a chain of upscale 4-star restaurants in New York. Looking at me, most people would probably assume I come from a happy, supportive family. They'd think my family must be proud of what I've accomplished, the success I've built from the ground up. But the truth is far from what people think. My family has never respected what I do. They've seen my work as nothing more than a low-level, unimportant job for years. Not because I haven't been successful, but because my parents and relatives have never cared enough to understand what I do. They assume I'm still just a server, making $4,000 a month, not wearing suits, with no house or car to my name. Every time I visit them, instead of being welcomed with admiration, I'm either ignored or met with cold, judgmental stares. To them, the only person worthy of pride is my older brother, Lincoln. He's 4 years older than me. He works at a big financial firm and makes a high income. And the family celebrates everything he does. And me? Even after building a restaurant empire, I'm still seen as the leftover who doesn't quite belong. Even though I'm never invited to essential family events yearly, I still send a few thousand back home. I've always tried to maintain the relationship, even if they never truly saw me for who I am. When I was a kid, my parents always tried to treat my brother Lincoln and me equally. We got the same attention. They always told us we were equally important to the family. But then, 6 years ago, a small event changed everything. And things have never been the same since. I was 26 at the time. After 4 years working in finance, I had a stable job earning $120,000 a year, a dream salary for many. I was proud of what I had achieved. My life wasn't luxurious, but comfortable, and I felt content. I figured I'd stay with the company, build my career, and enjoy a peaceful life. Then, 2 of my closest college friends, people I'd shared some of the best years of my life with, invited me to start a business with them. They had an idea to open a high-end restaurant in New York, a dream we used to talk about back in college, but now it was becoming a real opportunity. First, I said no. Not because I didn't believe in myself, but because my job felt too secure. I didn't want to give up the safety I had for something as risky as the restaurant industry. But the idea wouldn't leave me alone. I spent night after night thinking about my future. And slowly, my mindset shifted. I realized that if I never tried, I'd never know if I could turn that dream into reality. Deep down, I didn't want to keep living in the shadow of my finance job. So after a lot of thought, I made the decision. I quit my job and jumped into this new chapter with my friends. I worked as a server at a 5-star restaurant in New York to fully understand how a fine dining restaurant operates. I wanted to experience the pressure and challenges firsthand, what staff go through, so I could build my restaurant the right way, from the ground up. My family had no idea I had quit my job and started my own business. They still believed I wore a suit daily, working in finance like before. I chose not to tell them about the change, because I didn't want them to think I was doing something reckless or crazy. But then, 3 months later, everything changed. My dad called me home after his younger brother, Uncle James, sent him a photo of me working as a server at a restaurant. I remember that day clearly. It was a weekend afternoon. I was bringing menus to a group of guests, and when I looked up at one of them, I froze. It was Uncle James. He stared at me for a moment, clearly caught off guard. I tried to stay calm, kept a professional smile, and continued my service like nothing happened. But deep down, I had a strong gut feeling, like something big was coming. After he left, I kept composure and finished my shift like any other day. But barely an hour later, my phone rang. It was my dad. His voice was cold, sharp, and firm. Every word clipped and angry. "You get home right now." That was the moment I knew this wouldn't be just a talk. Something was about to explode that night. After my dad's call, I went home to my parents' house. When I walked in, it wasn't just my mom and dad. Lincoln and his wife, Elena, were waiting. The air in the room was cold and heavy with tension. My dad didn't say a word. He just threw his phone toward me, his face emotionless. I picked it up, already sensing something was wrong. When I looked at the screen, my heart dropped. It was a message from Uncle James to my dad, and I was shocked by what I read. I thought Danielle was some big success. Turns out she's just a server. And all this time, you've been bragging that she works in finance and makes a great salary. What a joke. Below that message was a clear photo of me in my restaurant uniform. I never expected Uncle James to say something so cruel. I'd always known he was jealous of our family, but he took this moment to humiliate me and, in his way, take a jab at my parents too. It hurt, but I kept my emotions in check. I knew I needed to stay calm. As soon as I finished reading, I said, "This is just a misunderstanding, Dad. I'm working in a restaurant not because I failed, but because I want to learn the business from the inside out. I'm starting my restaurant." I explained everything, the project I was working on with my friends, the dream we were building. I wanted them to see the bigger picture and understand what I was trying to do. But before I could finish, Lincoln jumped in. "This is insane, Danielle. You had a good job making great money. Why throw that away? You don't need to work in a restaurant to prove anything." Elena didn't hold back either. Right after Lincoln finished, she added, "Danielle, I think you're going way overboard. You don't need to be grinding away in a restaurant like that. It's just a waste of time." My mom, who usually tried to keep the peace, couldn't hold it this time. She said, "Even if you do end up owning a restaurant, you're still just someone serving food to others. There's nothing to be proud of in a job that low." Every word felt like a dagger. My dad didn't say much. He just looked at me coldly and said in a flat, emotionless voice, "If you're not returning to your old job, don't bother coming home again." At that moment, I had nothing left to say. I knew I couldn't go back. But facing rejection from the people I had always tried to make proud of was devastating. That night, I paid the price for following my dream, with silence, judgment, and the sting of being cast out by my family. And I understood from that point on, I would have to walk this road alone. After 6 months of working as a server at a 5-star restaurant, combined with my 4 years of experience in finance, I had gained a deep understanding of how top-tier restaurants operate. I didn't just learn about kitchen operations. I learned how to manage a team, build a brand, and create an experience where every guest felt cared for from the moment they walked through the door. The Heritage, that's the name we chose for our restaurant. Heritage wasn't just about elegance. It was a tribute to the culinary values we wanted to celebrate and share. The restaurant was located in Greenwich Village, New York, a vibrant culinary neighborhood, perfect for reaching diners who appreciate novelty and sophistication. We started with a total investment of $500,000. I contributed $200,000, and Anthony and Sophia, my 2 closest friends, each paid $150,000. But it wasn't enough to cover everything. We had to take out an additional $500,000 bank loan to pay for the space, interior design, kitchen equipment, and initial marketing efforts. That first year wasn't easy. We leveraged every connection I had from my finance days, inviting former colleagues and clients to try the food and share their experiences. Anthony, who worked in PR, led our media and communication strategy. With her marketing background, Sophia sought out major local events and opportunities that helped us attract attention and build a following. We focused on crafting a high-end menu, a blend of refined, creative dishes designed to make people feel like they weren't just dining, but experiencing something artistic. We hosted special events, wine tastings, jazz nights, and intimate VIP dinners to build loyalty and deepen our relationship with guests. After a year, the Heritage found its rhythm. We had steady revenue and a growing base of loyal customers who returned for the food, outstanding service, and unforgettable ambience. The restaurant didn't just survive. It earned a respected place in New York's culinary scene. By our 3rd year, we had fully paid off our bank loan and recovered every dollar we had invested. That was a proud milestone. But what truly excited me was seeing our restaurant thrive and build a strong and growing base of loyal guests. Still, I wasn't ready to stop there. As the Heritage gained popularity, we started running into new challenges. On weekends, customers were regularly turned away because we were fully booked. During holidays, the demand was overwhelming. And beyond that, we began getting messages from people who lived too far away, folks who wanted to try our food but couldn't justify the time and cost of travel. It was clear to me we needed to expand. Opening more locations would solve the issue of overcrowding and make it easier for people across the city to experience what we had built. When I brought up the idea of opening additional branches, Anthony and Sophia stared at me like I was crazy. From the very beginning, they were the ones who pulled me into this dream, but now I was the one pushing it further. They were nervous, understandably, but ultimately they trusted me, and we took the next big step together. 6 years later, the Heritage has 4 thriving locations across New York, in Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, and the Bronx. Each branch has been a success, welcomed warmly by its neighborhood and community. We didn't just build a brand. We brought fine dining closer to the people who love and appreciate it, no matter where they live. 6 years have passed, and even with all the success, something still weighs heavy on me, especially during the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's celebrations. Those are the most challenging times. Since the day I walked away from my family, there's been no contact, no calls, no invites, not even a text asking how I'm doing. We live in the same city, yet every attempt I've made to reconnect has been met with cold silence or avoidance, like they're embarrassed by me and think being seen with me would somehow bring them shame. They don't say it out loud, but I feel it every time I reach out. Whether I try to invite them out for a meal or check in on how they're doing, all I ever get is silence or a polite but distant shake. I still remember the holidays when I'd scroll through social media and see photos of them all together, smiling, laughing, while I sat alone, wondering if they ever thought about me. And yet, I still send nearly $10,000 to my parents every year. Maybe deep down, I still hope they'll see me. That one day, they'll finally acknowledge what I've built. I want them to realize I made it. I succeeded. And not just any success, the kind that should make them proud. Sometimes I try to convince myself that I'm doing the right thing, building the relationship in my way, from a distance. But on those special days when the world feels warmer and closer, that space where my family should be never disappears. Even though I knew nothing had changed, I kept sending them money every year. Because somewhere deep down, I held on to this small hope that they would truly see me one day, not as the outcast son, but as someone who built his own life with his own 2 hands. But that hope, all of it, changed 3 months ago, when something serious happened at one of our restaurants. And from that moment on, I finally realized I don't need them. In fact, without them, I've done more than survive. I've thrived. It was a weekend, and I was doing one of my usual unannounced visits at our Brooklyn location. I do this often to ensure everything's running smoothly and stay connected with our longtime guests. I've always believed that to maintain a restaurant standard, I need to stay involved, to see things firsthand. While I was in the kitchen, one of the servers rushed in and reported to the manager. One of our staff accidentally spilled wine on a guest, and the guest is furious. The manager immediately moved to handle it, but I stopped him and said calmly, "I'll go with you." When we walked into the VIP section, I froze. Sitting there, my parents, my brother's family, and a few relatives. They looked at me in complete shock, like they couldn't believe what they saw. I'll never forget the look in their eyes. Confusion, discomfort, maybe even a slight panic. It was the first time in years that I'd seen them like this. Not on the street, not in passing, but face to face in my restaurant. And I knew at that moment there was no avoiding what came next. As soon as I walked in, the server started to speak. "This is the manager," and I quickly raised my hand to stop him. I didn't want him accidentally revealing who I was. Not in this moment, not like this. Then, without missing a beat, my brother Lincoln spoke up, his voice thick with sarcasm. "So this is what became of that big project 6 years ago. Turns out you're just a restaurant manager after all." His words hit me like a slap across the face. Even though I had mentally prepared for a moment like this, hearing it from my brother stunned deeply. I didn't respond, but I could feel the anger rising in my chest. Just then, Ryan, the branch manager in Brooklyn, stepped forward and began to say, "Sir, this is actually..." I cut him off immediately, my voice cool and steady. "It's been a while. How's everyone doing?" No one answered, just silence. I wasn't surprised. That was always how they were. Even with me standing right there in front of them, they still couldn't look me in the eye or acknowledge how much my life had changed. About a minute later, my father finally spoke. His voice was cold, laced with disgust. "If I had known you were working here as a server, I wouldn't have come. It's embarrassing." My mother jumped in right after, her tone filled with disappointment. "It's shameful to have a child working as a waiter." I opened my mouth to speak, trying to stay calm. "Dad, Mom." But before I could finish, they both raised their hands to stop me. Their eyes hard, like they were cutting off all connection. "Don't call us that. We haven't had a son like you for a long time. Having a child working in a restaurant is a disgrace." The tension in the room turned suffocating. Couldn't hold it back anymore. My anger boiled over, and I looked them straight in the eye, no longer filtering anything. "If you don't consider me your son, why keep accepting the $10,000 I send yearly? Isn't that money just as disgraceful?" My words hit like a slap, and the room fell silent for a long moment. Then my father let out a cold laugh and replied, his eyes like ice, "You sent it on your own. We didn't ask for it." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. That answer only added fuel to the fire inside me. I took a breath, trying to hold on to what little composure I had left and asked, "Then tell me, what does success look like to you? What's considered a source of pride for this family?" Without hesitation, my father turned his gaze to Lincoln, my older brother, the one they'd always held up as the golden standard. Lincoln sat back in his chair, arms crossed, looking at me with that same smug look I'd seen 1,000 times. And then my father answered, "Look at your brother. That's what success looks like. He's got a smart wife, a director, always dressed sharp in a suit, not in some cheap server uniform like you." And in that moment, it hit me. No matter what I did or what I built, they would always measure me against Lincoln. Every word out of their mouths wasn't just to praise him. It was meant to diminish me, to remind me I'd never be good enough in their eyes. About a minute later, my father finally spoke again, his tone cold and filled with contempt. "If I had known you worked here as a server, I wouldn't have come. What a disgrace." My mother followed quickly, her voice heavy with disappointment. "It's embarrassing to have a son working as a waiter." I opened my mouth, trying to speak calmly. "Dad, Mom." But they both cut me off with a stern wave of the hand, their eyes sharp and unforgiving, like they were severing all ties. "Don't call us that. We haven't had a son like you for a long time. Having a child working in a restaurant is a disgrace." The air turned so thick you could cut it. I couldn't hold it in any longer. The anger that had been simmering for years finally spilled out. I looked them dead in the eye and asked, without restraint, "If I'm not your son, why take the $10,000 I send yearly? Isn't it humiliating to accept that kind of money?" My question hung in the air like a slap. The silence that followed felt endless, until my father gave a dry, bitter laugh and said coldly, "You sent it on your own. We never asked for it." I could barely believe it. That response, dismissive, heartless, only fueled my frustration. I took a deep breath and asked, "Then tell me, what is a source of pride for this family?" My father didn't hesitate. He turned to look at Lincoln, my older brother, their forever shining example. Lincoln sat there, smug, leaning back in his chair, eyes filled with quiet arrogance. And then my father said, "Look at your brother. That's success. He's got a smart wife, a director, always dressed in a sharp suit, not some cheap server uniform like you." Right then and there, I finally saw it. They had always used Lincoln as the measuring stick. And every word they spoke wasn't just admiration for him. It was a deliberate effort to make sure I knew exactly where I stood beneath him. Just as the tension in the room reached its peak, a deep, composed voice echoed from behind us. "Apologies for being late." Every head in the VIP section turned toward the man who had just arrived, a middle-aged gentleman in a tailored gray suit, walking confidently, which seemed to shift the atmosphere with each step. Immediately, I saw Lincoln straighten up, flick his hair back, jump to his feet, adjust his blazer, and stride over with a polished smile. "Boss, we've been waiting for you." The man gave him a polite nod and extended his hand, a formal, distant handshake, followed by a faint smile. But moments later, his eyes left Lincoln and landed squarely on me. His expression shifted, warmer, more sincere, as he walked straight toward me and extended his hand. "Well, if it isn't the owner of the heritage." "It's been a while, David." The entire table fell into stunned silence. I didn't leave him waiting. I didn't pretend to be surprised or flustered. I smiled, extended my hand firmly, and replied, "Hello, Mr. Thomas. It's good to see you. How have you been?" The man who had just walked in was Thomas Graham, CEO of Graham and Weiss Financial Group, where Lincoln had worked for nearly a decade. The same man my brother referred to as the big boss every chance he got. But Mr. Graham wasn't just a titan in the New York financial world. He was also a longtime VIP guest at the Heritage, one of our most loyal patrons. After our greeting, Mr. Graham glanced around the room, sensing the heavy air. With a slight frown, he turned to me. I get the feeling I walked into something tense. "Is everything all right?" I kept my tone calm and professional. "Just a small incident, sir. One of our servers accidentally spilled wine on a guest. We've already apologized and offered a solution." Right on cue, Elena, who had been loud, condescending, and demanding compensation just minutes earlier, suddenly changed her tone. She forced a bright smile and nodded eagerly. "Oh no, it's nothing serious. Just a small accident. I've already agreed to let it go." I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. I knew exactly what she was doing, trying to save face now that she realized who was sitting across from her. But I didn't call her out. I didn't have to, because in that moment, everyone in the room saw things for what they truly were. And finally, they all understood who held their place and who didn't. After that unexpected introduction, I slipped back into my office, leaving the party to continue without me. I figured that was the end. A minor incident, a brief unmasking, and nothing more. But I was naive. A while after the dinner had ended, as I was reviewing reports in the back office, one of the staff came rushing in and knocked on the door. "David, they're asking for you outside." Said they need to speak with you. I sighed. The energy shift was instantly noticeable when I stepped out and walked back toward the front register. The same faces that were cold and cutting not long ago were now smiling, forced, overly sweet, painfully fake. Elena was the first to speak, her voice suddenly soft and pleasant. David, about the dress incident earlier. Really, I wasn't upset at all. It was just an accident. Everyone makes mistakes, right? A relative chimed in with a laugh. We were just saying how proud we are of you. You've done an amazing job. The restaurant's truly top class. Your parents must be so proud. Before I could say anything, my father jumped in. His tone, disguised as a suggestion but a command about tonight's meal. You should comp it for the family. We're all kin after all. And then, as if rehearsed, Lincoln stepped forward, puffed up like some seasoned executive. Also, you should give me a VIP card. The top tier. After tonight, I can bring in many new clients for you. It'll be good for business. If you're serious about sustainability, maybe it's time to cut me in on the profits. Call it a family partnership. I stood silently behind the register, scanning their faces, each one straining to hold up a false smile. Then I laughed. A loud, full laugh filled the room, not mocking, not bitter, just free. When the laughter faded, I looked at each of them and spoke slowly, clearly. Are you people out of your minds? After everything you said, everything you did, now you want a free meal, a VIP card, a share of my business? I paused, then continued, my tone colder now. No. I don't owe any of you a damn thing. And if any of you keep standing here making demands. I nodded toward the computer at the register, where the live security footage was displayed. I'll send the footage from earlier, when you were all insulting me, straight to Mr. Thomas's inbox. Let's see if he still wants to keep a director like you, Lincoln. Lincoln's face went pale. Elena clutched her purse a little tighter, eyes darting away. My parents said nothing. They knew. They knew. They just stepped right into the mess they made for themselves. No one said another word. They paid in full. Not a single cent discounted, and walked out of the restaurant, one by one. Not a single person daring to look back. I stood behind the counter, watching them go. No joy, no sadness, just a quiet, weightless sense of peace. Like I had finally set down something I'd been carrying for far too long. After that unexpected encounter, one thing became clearer to me than ever before. To them, I was only worthy of acknowledgement when I had status, money, and a name they could brag about. I wondered if that day, I had just been a server. Standing there apologizing in front of them instead of the restaurant owner, would their attitude have changed? But I already knew the answer. No. It wouldn't have. To them, respect was measured by title and position. Character, effort, kindness, those things never made it into the conversation. And after everything, I finally understood, family, real family, should love you unconditionally. It should be where you're a CEO or a server, rich or struggling, you're still respected. You still have a place to come home to. I didn't have that, but I've learned to accept it. More importantly, I've learned how to build a family rooted in respect, empathy, and genuine connection. And if someone out there hears this and has ever felt hurt by those who were supposed to love you most, if you've ever been compared, belittled, or made to feel like you weren't good enough, then let me offer this from the heart: live by your values. Don't chase someone else's approval at the cost of your peace. Because in the end, real love, the kind that matters, never requires you to prove yourself to earn it. And my story didn't end there. A month after that encounter, my father called. I saw his name flash on my screen and didn't answer. A few minutes later, my mother called. I stayed silent. No response. Then came the message. Next week is Mom's birthday. Come home. Okay? Everyone's hoping you'll be there. I sat there staring at the screen, reading that sentence repeatedly. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel happy. I just had one question echoing in my mind. Do they want me back, or do they remember I have money now? Status? Influence? I didn't reply, and I didn't go. But I did send a gift, a luxury jeweler set worth $2,000. It was delivered right to my mother's doorstep on the morning of her birthday, along with a straightforward message. I stopped being your son 6 years ago. This is my last gift. I hope you'll cherish it. No anger, no resentment. Just a final goodbye as soft as a sigh. After that, I blocked every form of contact. Phone, text, social media. No more waiting, no more hoping. I had given them so much. But in the end, what I needed most never came. And sometimes, letting go is the only way left to protect the last piece of dignity a child can hold on to. It's been 3 months since that day. I thought that would be the end. We'd all go our separate ways. But no. They kept coming. Every few weeks, my parents, Lincoln, Elena, and extended relatives started showing up at the Brooklyn branch. They asked the staff if I was around. But I had already given instructions, whenever they come, say I'm not here. I'm not hiding. I just don't want to face them anymore. Some relatives must have heard the whole story from my parents, because now I get messages calling me cold and ungrateful. But there were others, friends who had seen everything from the beginning. They told me I did the right thing, that I finally stood up for myself. I set clear boundaries with people who had only ever taken and never given back. I hear both sides, but truthfully, I don't care about anyone's judgment anymore, because now I live for me. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know if I'll ever sit at the same table with them again. I don't know if I'll ever forgive them or even if I want to. That's up to fate. As for now, there's only one thing I know for sure, I'm tired. And sometimes, you don't need to explain that kind of tiredness. You need to stop looking back. And before I close this chapter, I want to ask you, the one still here, still listening to me in this final moment. If you were me, what would you do? Would you forgive? Would you go back? Or would you choose to walk away in silence like I did? Leave your thoughts below the story. I genuinely want to hear them. And if something in this story resonated with you, if it stirred even the smallest part of your heart, don't forget to subscribe, hit like, and share this with someone who might need to hear it. Thank you truly for being here. Goodbye for now, and I'll see you again in the following story.